particularly at our police stations, at our crime scenes of gender-based violence, as well as at the safe houses or the one-stop centers that President is speaking about? Just that question, Honorable President. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. With regard to how we want to improve the hotspots, you're absolutely right that one of the better ways is to capacitate them and to make sure that they are also able to conduct forensic investigations, and also to say to the police that the police themselves should be well trained, and we have embarked on a massive training process for our police, that when they have to handle gender-based violence cases, they should be able to do it in a way where they show compassion, they show understanding, and they show full support to victims of gender-based violence. And this they will only be able to do if they are well trained. But we also want the training to extend beyond being able to do forensics. We should get people who are well trained in forensic investigations so that they are able to do forensics, so that when those who perpetrate violence against women and children should know that they will not escape the focus of the law through technicalities, and that once forensic investigations have happened, even in those hotspot areas, they will be able to be dealt with in terms of the law. I welcome your comments about the Women's Charter Review. It demonstrates our determination to ensure that the rights of women are respected. And we will carry on with all the work that we need to do to ensure that the dignity and the respect that should be given to our women is there, including when they face great challenges, when they have to be serviced or cared for in our shelters. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much. We will now move over to supplementary questions. The second supplementary question will come from Christian. Honorable Christian.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Mr. President, during your SONA address in February, while working on gender-based violence, you said we should upgrade our culture of reporting crime when we see it being committed. This battle, Mr. President, can only succeed if it is taken on by the whole of society and if we build a formidable social compact of all formations. The lived reality on the ground is that when victims of gender-based violence go to police stations, they are more than often not assisted. SABC members often refuse to open cases and tell them to go home and make peace. When victims are too far from police stations, they are not assisted because stations are under-resourced and have insufficient vehicles to get out to what many officers consider to be a lesser crime. There are still incidences where rape kits are not available, and many stations do not have appropriate facilities where victims can be assisted with dignity and privacy. Mr. President, the first refuge of a victim should be their local police station. This should be their sanctuary. This is where your citizens need government to be accessible, to provide the service that taxpayers fund and that people need. It is still not happening. Gender-based violence undermines the health, dignity, security and autonomy of its victims. Yet, in South Africa, it still remains shrouded in a culture of silence. Mr. President, time to talk is over. It is time to take serious action. Will you instruct Minister Cele to issue a national instruction to ensure that all gender-based violence cases are opened on request of victims, and that every station be improved to ensure victims are treated with the respect that they deserve? And furthermore, will you undertake to ensure that each and every police station in South Africa is capacitated with a person who is appropriately trained in order to assist victims of gender-based violence with respect and dignity? Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I want to support what Honorable Christian has said, and matters that she has put before us are precisely the matters that we continue to address. Indeed, we are saying that when people see a crime being committed, they should be prepared to report such. But more particularly when it comes to victims of gender-based violence. She complains that they are not assisted as much as we would like them to be. Yes, there are such isolated cases, but we are improving on an ongoing basis. We are now working very hard to make sure that every police station has a desk just dedicated to dealing with gender-based violence cases. We are also making sure that every police station has the kits that are necessary to deal with rape cases. We want to ensure that every station has well-trained people, police officers, who will be able to deal with these cases, so that no police station should ever be able to turn any woman or any child away. Yes, we also want every police station to be the very first place of refuge for the women of our country and for the children of our country. Things have, however, improved from what they used to be, and we want to keep on improving on an ongoing basis. A number of police stations now have well-trained personnel who are able to, with empathy, deal with various cases that have to do with gender-based violence. Yes, we continue directing Minister Kwele to make sure that the police stations are turned into good places of refuge. We will continue insisting that every police station should have the necessary kits, and that every police station should indeed have personnel who are not going to turn people away. We have heard a number of stories where people are turned away, women are turned away, and we want to minimize this as much as possible and to bring it to an end so that the women in our country are no longer turned away when they go to complain in our police stations. And I'd like to thank Honorable Christian for raising these matters, because they are serious and we will continue improving as suggested. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
The third supplementary question will come from Honorable M.O. Mukausi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. President, we cannot talk about gender-based violence without taking into cognizance the effect and extent to which LGBTQIA plus community is affected and yet excluded, Mr. President, when mapping out policies and intervention related to gender-based violence. Considering, Mr. President, the incompetence and lack of sensitivity training of South African Police Service members when dealing with domestic violence cases of a heteronormative nature and based on the will change when dealing with transgender, intersex, gay, lesbians, and all other related complaints, Mr. President, can you assure the LGBTQIA plus community of your commitment in making sure that all their complaints are going to be taken at all levels of police station and be attended to? Thank you.
President.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson, I'd like to say to Honorable Mukause that yes, indeed, the interests of the LGBTQA plus community is very prominent, not only in my mind, but also in our mind as government. This is a vulnerable community that needs the support of government, and we have made it a point that in keeping with the precepts of our Constitution, we will protect their interests and their rights. And we will, yes, be able to assure them that when they do go to police stations, they should be given the respect and the dignity that they deserve as South African citizens. Their condition is such that support, respect, and recognition should be given and offered to them. In our various policies, we always go out of our way to ensure that we do highlight the needs and the situation of the LGBTQA plus community. So that we are prepared to do, and I'm willing to continue extending that message to our South African Police Service personnel and insist that they should take care to treat this community with the respect that it deserves. But thank you very much for raising the matter. Thank you.
The fourth supplementary question will come from Honorable Mfaela.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable President, regarding the fact that police officers often have little understanding of the provision of various legislation which result in some sexual offences not being filed properly and subsequently not resulting in a successful prosecution. I would like to know whether the government has any mechanism in place to improve efficiency in the SAPS. Thank you, Mr. President.
Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'd like to say to Honorable Mfaela that yes, we continue to make efforts to upskill our personnel, to reskill them, and to make sure that their skill base keeps improving on an ongoing basis. The work-based learning discipline and culture is being inculcated in the public service and also particularly in the police service. As I said earlier, we are ensuring that every police station does have a police officer or officers who are well schooled, well trained, and well skilled in the way in which these very sensitive crimes should be handled, particularly because these are crimes that have victims that are vulnerable and that need a deep understanding of how people should be cared for. They have victims as women and children, and these are the citizens that we need to show a great deal of compassion to. So the skilling of our officers has to be directed at making sure that they handle these matters with the sensitivity that is required. But more importantly, that as they investigate these matters, they should be focusing on how the perpetrators can be brought to book and can be punished for the crimes that they perpetrate against the women and the children of our country. So the focus then has to be compassion, but it also has to be a resolute determination to make sure that they do get convictions, so that those who perpetrate these acts do not go scot-free, that they are dealt with effectively by the arm of the law. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We will now move on to question number 2. And this question is asked by Honorable Labus Kakne and is directed to the President. Honorable President.
Honorable Chairperson, as you may be aware, I directed that the documentation, which included correspondence as well as a report or reports relating to the visit to Zimbabwe by Minister of Defense and military veterans, Ms. Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula, be made public. This has been done. It is public for everyone to look at and to scrutinize. Thus, as I expressed publicly, I received a written request for travel from Minister Mapisa Ngakula, dated the 7th of September 2020. The Minister requested permission to travel to Zimbabwe from the 8th to the 10th of September 2020 to conduct a bilateral meeting with her Zimbabwean counterpart. Now, this is the normal request that comes my way, because I have to give permission for ministers to leave the country. But as I was not in Gauteng at the time the minister submitted her travel request, I gave the minister verbal approval of the travel on the 8th of September and signed the relevant documentation upon my return to Gauteng. This often happens where ministers are able to get approval verbally. On the 10th of September, the presidency sent the minister written confirmation that the president had approved her travel. The minister traveled on a South African Air Force aircraft, which also conveyed senior leaders of the African National Congress. I have since issued the minister with a formal reprimand for conveying the ANC delegation to Zimbabwe on an aircraft of the South African Air Force. I took this action after considering the minister's initial report and a supplementary report that I had directed the minister to provide on the circumstances that led to the ANC delegation traveling on a South African Air Force plane. While the minister was on an official trip for which I had given permission and for which she was entitled to use an Air Force aircraft, I found that it was an error in judgment on her part to use the plane to convey a party political delegation. I directed the minister to make sure that the ANC reimburses the state for the costs of the flight to Harare, and I understand that this has now been done. I thank you.
Any follow-up?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you for the answer, Mr. President. There have been rumors that you plan to fire the Minister of Defense. It seems rather ironic considering the inconsistent facts that have come out of this quagmire that possibly implicate you as well. According to the Minister's report that you referred to, the public one, not the supplementary one, to you regarding the diplomatic trip to approve the said trip on...
All right, that's President Cyril Ramaphosa responding to questions in the National Council of Provinces right after the US-USA Business and Investment Round Table. All right, that's it for me, Flo Gob, and the rest of the team here at SA Today. The full view is up next. Enjoy the rest of your evening and continue to take care. Cheers.